What's up guys, Jay here, Rising Duelist, and today we're going to be talking about the structure that just came out, Counter Fairies. Now this deck had a lot of hype, even beforehand. I remember this deck being played a lot back in the day when the strikes just came out with Guiding Ironic. People started to play this a bit more. Now we got a structure deck and a bunch of new support. Now with the new support, there's a lot of stuff that you gotta be running threes of. Now, basically, with those of you who don't know, Counter Fairies are a deck of level 4 fairies that have effects that revolve around counter traps. The counter traps being stuff that just say nope to your opponent, and the only thing that can negate a counter trap is another counter trap. And if you're going first, I'm not going to have any counter traps because they don't have anything set. So you can just say nope to everything. Now, the first things that we're going to go ahead and talk about is kind of a little bit of the obvious stuff. There's not too much special summoning in this deck. So first thing is obviously Card Demise. Card Demise is absolutely phenomenal in this deck. The first few things I'm going to be touching on is something that if you're watching this video, you probably already know about. Card Demise is something that's phenomenal. You summon your fairy, you activate Card Demise, get a couple of traps, set. One of the best top decks ever. Another really good top deck is Card of Desires. Pot of Desires, not Card of Desires. Pot of Desires. Pot of Desires, banish 10, draw 2. Nice and easy. Simple. There's no combo pieces in this deck. There's nothing that, you summon this, search this, get nice and easy. You work with what you have, you negate everything that you don't want to face against. So it's pretty simple. You don't really have to deal with the drawbacks of Pot of Desires, aside from it getting hashed. Pot of Duality. Pot of Duality, like I said, you don't do a lot of special summoning. Those three are usually the go-tos. Those are the ones that you can really run and really accomplish things. Card Demise, Pot of Desires, Pot of Duality. If you work with those three, it's generally for decks like, True Dracos, for example. They were a great deck that can utilize all three of them, and look how powerful they are. Other ones that you might be using is Ties of the Brethren. Ties of the Brethren, you target a monster, special summon 2 monsters from the deck from the same level and same attribute at the cost of 2,000 life points. You can't special summon for the rest of the turn, and you cannot conduct your battle phase. So a little bit similar to Card Desires, but one thing that's very important to note is that you cannot activate Card Desires and Ties of the Brethren in the same turn, because Ties of the Brethren special summons and Card Demise says you can't special summon. So if you have both of them, you have to pick one or the other. You can't use both. So that's one thing that's very important to consider when you're deciding your ratios on this. Personally, I run 3 Card Demise and I run 1 Ties because just opening Ties pretty nicely, but I don't want to see Ties too often. Another thing that's very important to consider is Ties. It is a 2-card combo. You need a level 4 fairy. Demise on its own is just on its own +2. Another thing that I'm going to be talking about, it came out on the structure deck. You might have seen it debating about it. I saw a lot of people debating about running this in other decks as well, but it's going to be Cards from the Sky. You banish a light fairy monster, you draw 2. Similar to Allure of Darkness, except it has to be a fairy monster. The thing is that you cannot conduct your battle phase, and you cannot special summon. This is Counter Fairies. Let's move on to the counter stuff. Now you're going to see a lot of stuff that, in the structure deck, a lot of great stuff that just came out. But we also have a couple of old stuff too. Recall. It's similar to Strike, but it's kind of like a mixture between Solemn Strike and Dark Bribe. You negate a monster effect, destroy it, and they draw a card. So counter traps, nice and easy, no cost of life points. Other great ones is of course Dark Bribe. Same thing, negate a spell trap card and they draw a card. Now, normally those things were not that good back in the day because you, in a sense, when it comes down to card numbers, you're going -1. Because you get rid of the monster, and then you get rid of your trap card, then you're even, and then they gain a card, so you're -1 now. A couple of other ones is the Huge Revolution is over. That one, if your opponent is going to be destroying 2 or more cards on the field, you can negate it and destroy it. Downsides is that people are running either, when they're getting rid of stuff, it's usually Cosmic Cyclone, which does not destroy, it banishes. There's also Evenly Match. This thing can negate Black Rose, it can negate Twin Twisters. That's pretty much it. We can negate Sleeper, actually. That's something also to consider. It's not going to destroy it because he would not be able to be destroyed, but it can negate the effect. When it comes down to Magicians, something else that you can run. It's a personal favorite, even before Counter Fairies and just any deck that I play. I always side in Pendulum Hole. Pendulum Hole is counter trap. It's absolutely amazing. It just kills pendulums. They pendulum summon, activate, they shuffle all the monsters, negates the summons, shuffle all the monsters into the deck. And so there's no effects going off on destroy, just shuffle back all into the deck. A couple of the new ones that we got was the Rebirth of Parsheth, and I'm gonna go ahead and just read it verbatim here because it's kind of a mouthful when it comes down to counter traps. When a spell, trap, card, or monster effect is activated, reveal one counter trap in your hand, then discard one card, pay 1,000 life points, negate the activation. If you do, shuffle that card into the deck, then you can special summon one Parsheth monster from your deck or extra deck. Now, it does depend on what type of build that you're going for. If you're deciding to run the Parsheths, then that card is actually pretty good. If you're not, then it's kind of lackluster. The reason for it is because you have to have a counter trap in hand, and then you have to discard a card. Yes, it can negate anything, so that's great, but you have to have a counter trap in hand. So if you're not running the Parsheth build personally, if you're not running it, I would not run this card. If you are running it, then yes, there's definitely some pluses that can be going on there. A couple old school stuff, Magic Jammer, 7 Tools of the Bandit. 7 Tools Bandit negates any trap, costs 1,000 life points. So it's a little bit iffy there. People didn't really play that. I think Dark Bribe's a little bit better, but with 7 Tools, if you're really worried about traps, say if you're going against like a Paleo matchup, you can side out the Dark Brides and put in the 7 Tools so they don't get any draws. And then Negate Attack. Negate Attack, it's cheesy, it just targets a monster and negates the attack. It's pretty trash, but it's a counter trap. Next things I want to talk to you about is a couple other stuff that came out in the structure deck, a couple of the newer ones that we have. We have Power Angel Valkyrie, which I gotta say, I love the art on this. I'm gonna just keep the art right here. Just look at this. This is actually amazing art. Saying that though, the effects, personally, I would only run one. It's definitely something you would want to run because it searches any of your counter fairies, and maybe an Honest if you want to run that as well. But it searches any one of your fairies, but it's only once per turn, so you don't want to see it too much, but it's just one of those things that maybe if you're getting it off like a ties or something along those lines, or if you're down to you one monster at a time, this is a good one to kind of help you recover a little bit to get some other monsters in your hand. Also that came out on the structure deck is Hecatrice and Valhalla. You don't really need much. Again, with the Duality and Demise, you don't really need to run that. So it's there in the structure deck. It's kind of good to just kind of spam a little bit. But personally, I don't think you really need it. Guiding Ariande, when it's a pendulum, when it's on the scale, you do not pay costs for your counter traps. When it's destroyed, you get to reveal 3, and your opponent randomly picks one, and it gets to your hand. Or they get to pick one, not randomly. They decide. One thing that you can also run with that is Luster Pendulum. Luster Pendulum can destroy it, and it's a scale 5, so you can pendulum summon as well. So if you have multiple Guiding Arianes, you can special summon multiples from your deck. One downside to that is that if you do, that's one counter trap that you might not be able to set that turn. So if you activate Demise, sometimes you might have to choose between a Guiding Ariande and say like the counter trap. If you're going to be running more of a monster heavy build so you can run Cards of the Skies and Ties to the Brethren, there's also the Herald, which is the orange light, green light, and purple light, which thankfully they're color coded. Orange light negates monsters, green light negates spells, and purple light negates traps. But you have to send one. If there are hand traps, you gotta send a monster to the graveyard with that, or specifically a fairy, possibly a side if you know that you're gonna be going second and you don't have much room to put down a couple of just massive trap cards because you're worried they might be negated. So have a little bit of hand traps to help you out there. Just some other stuff that you can run in here. There's the Bury Statue of Heavens. It is a light fairy, so if you're running ties, you can ties Bury Statue of the Heavens. It's a level 4 fairies. You can't special summon monsters except for light monsters. You can run Christia. So Christia will work pretty well with the heralds because you can add the heralds back to hand, as well as any other counter fairies that you might want to get back from your grave. Christia also prevents people from being monsters from being special summoned, so it's a great lockout. And one of the newer ones that came out was the, I'm gonna go ahead and read the name here. It is Sacred Arch Air Knight Parsaf. And if I'm not saying that name right, I'm not that sorry, but Alright, this one here is, I'm gonna go ahead and just read the effect here. If you activate a counter trap, or if you negate the activation of spell, trap card, or monster effect except during a damage step, you can banish 2 other fairies from your hand, field, and or graveyard, and special summon this card from the graveyard. This card attacks defense specials and inflict piercing, which is great. And when this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, add 1 Parsaf card or 1 counter trap from your graveyard. That's situational. It's really good to have. If you're running this one, you want to run the Rebirth of Parsaf, the counter trap that I mentioned earlier. because they work really well together. But I kind of just loop a little bit to get more of them out. One thing I love about this deck is that there are extra decks. Their extra deck is really flexible. During the side, you can side up some cherries and have your extra deck just be targets. Number 41, Babushka, the terribly tired tapir. One thing very important to note is that while you have Babushka on the field, your fairies, their effects are still gonna go off. Bound for Artemis, Minerva, they're all gonna be going off. So they're not effects that activate. Babushka negates activated effects, and these effects will still go off. And that was something that I had to keep calling the judge over for, because I would make Babushka, and then with my other monsters continue activating their effects. Rank 4 Toolbox, Abyss Dweller, Utopia Package, Gagaga Cowboy, you have plenty of room. You don't really need the extra deck for this. It's really whatever your preference is on how you want to shape that. Really, when it comes down to the extra deck, it's kind of just have fun with it, do what you want with it. The real focus is going to be the main deck. I know I covered a lot of stuff in this video. I was just trying to be as extensive as I could, trying to cover all the different routes here personally. The way I personally think is the best build is if you're running just kind of three of the three major ones, Artemis, Minerva, and that one other one whose name's escaping me. Power Angel, Valkyria, and then just everything else is counter traps and draws. When it comes down to the counter traps, I would not run Rebirth of Parshev because you're not going to be running the big guys, again, personally. I like Recall, I like Jarbrive, just because you have monsters effects. Maybe don't max out on those like you would Solemn Strike or Solemn Warning, just kind of put those in there. Magic Jammer, you discard a card, so it's not that specific like Rebirth of the Parshev, so it helps out a little bit, and your opponent doesn't get a draw, so you kind of limit them a little bit. These are just a bunch of different things that you can run. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Am I missing like a counter trap that was released years ago, but that no one ever touched, but now it's all of a sudden meta again? Well, let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Jay here,